All right, let's take a look at this because we've been talking about how problematic these sort of imposed tariffs are going to be, all of the downturn in our economy that it may, but we're not talking about any of the positives. So let's talk. Let's hear this clip from Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who is expressing how this is going to usher in a new, more beneficial age for all of us. And of course, just reminder, this is the same guy who said his grandmother, or no, his mother-in-law, who's 97 years old, would not care if her Social Security checks did not show up. And of course, she lives in his mansion with him, but there it is. Okay, here's Howard Lutnick on with Jesse Waters explaining how great this is going to be.
All right.
We're not going to have all factories come back. Like clothing manufacturing, that's tough to bring back. But what kind of manufacturing are you talking about returning here?
Well, you can't just give that away. See, what's going to happen is robotics are going to replace the cheap labor that we've seen all across the world. I mean, think of what our factories did. They went to the cheapest labor in the whole world, slave labor, cheap labor, the worst environmental conditions, polluting the heck out of it. And then we bring back those cheap products here and we feel good about ourselves because we don't see the pain. But the pain is in our workers. The American workers have been given the raw deal. And what's going to happen now is we're going to build factories and we're going to train and we're going to have trade craft. We're going to do the greatest set of training ever. And our high school educated people, they're going to train to do robotics mechanics. It's kind of like a supercharged BMW mechanic, like you just can fix those robots. You can build air conditioning as an example, but that's for a fab or for a semiconductor factory. These are great paying jobs that are Americans. We're going to have 5 million of those jobs coming. And America is going to retool. It's going to do manufacturing, and robotics can sew as well. You've never seen anything like what you're going to see, the renaissance of American manufacturing coming because Donald Trump is bringing them back. He's driving them back. $6 trillion, he said today, he's got committed to America. It's unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable in that it cannot be believed.
So how long do you think it's going to take before we get 5 million jobs from high school students who are going to be trained to repair the robotic factories that are producing all of our clothing?
Yeah, it's a nation of robot mechanics is what we're going to be.
I mean, that is the best case scenario. How long? That's what he's selling as our sort of nirvana. Yeah. But it also
because
feels
I think
I feel like we're a couple of years off from that. Do you think that will happen within 18 months or 36 months?
It was interesting because I think as he launched into that, he realized the huge error that he made. He's like, oh, well, we can take all these factories back because they're not going to have any people in them. Oh, wait, if they don't have any people in them, then this isn't good for me. What's the value of the factory? And then, but we're going to fix the robots that are going to make all the things. So that'll get us 5 million jobs, right?
How many robot fixers do you think would be working in each factory?
What does the robot fixing industry look like? And why can't the robots fix them? Like, why can't, if the robots can sew and they can do all these other things, why can't they fix the robots?
Well, but then there's going to be another person fixing the robots that fix the robots.
That's right.
So we're going to move. There's going to be an evolution here. And believe me, it's going to be painful when we move from robot fixer to robot fixer.
Right.
That is going to be one of the more painful transitions that we'll be making.
But it will be just.
It'll be environment because the Trump administration is very concerned about the environment, and that's what is going on here. I mean, this is, it's possible there'll be something like that in the future where we will reshore some manufacturing because it's so cheap that it's.
But to an extent, that already represents certain advanced manufacturing industries. Like, yes, one of the reasons why you see a reduction in manufacturing employment in the United States is that many things have been automated. That doesn't mean that it creates like this huge cottage industry and robot fixers, but we have seen these factories get more automated, and in theory, that higher productivity per worker should be good for the working class.
It will be good for the capitalist class that will take all of the benefits of that higher productivity.
This was my point. Like, in theory, that's good for the workers, unless somebody else owns all the robots and takes all the benefits. Yes.
And again, are we anticipating this is going to happen in June, or like what? Do we have a notion of what month this is going to be?
When I put out my second book, Monopolized, and it was during the pandemic, and the book was scheduled to come out in June of 2020, and they said, you know what? There's a pandemic. A lot of people are getting sick. I don't think we're going to be able to do like live events. Let's make it July. Let's put it off till July. And that's when the book was released. So I think it's similar to that in that June might be a little hard to put in this robot fixer army and train them up. How about July?
Let's talk about what's happening with the Senate. We have Wisconsin, and this is the last thing. We have Wisconsin that happened this week, and then these tariffs. Let's go first with Ron Johnson, since he is from Wisconsin. I do not think I have seen Ron Johnson say a negative word about Donald Trump since the day that Donald Trump ran and Ron Johnson became a senator. Ron Johnson, until Tommy Tuberville came to the Senate, considered the most stupid senator in the Senate. I mean, that's by his peers. Al Franken had mentioned this to us a while back, and I believe it. This guy basically admitted to being part of the scheme for the January 6th without realizing it, and blamed it on an intern or something in his office. But here he is. The one thing that can sharpen the mind is sort of like a near miss, or a sense that you're headed down, that there's a waterfall in front of you in the boat. And here is Ron Johnson responding about Trump's tariffs.
I'm concerned. I mean, the stock markets are concerned. I'm concerned.
You are concerned about the stock market?
Yeah, again, I don't have the president's strongly held belief that this is absolutely what has to be done. But he's president. I'm not. He ran on this, and I hope he's absolutely right.
And if he's not, then what happens next? What can Congress
Again, that's
do?
hypothetical. I can't.
Yeah, that's hypothetical. He said, I just want to be clear. I don't have the president's strongly held belief that this is something that absolutely has to be done.
That is like the most euphemistic way of expressing opposition.
And then of course, like, what happens if he doesn't change? That's a hypothetical. I can't possibly that's complete conjecture. I can't possibly.
Well, look, I mean, Johnson comes from a Rust Belt state that has, some residual manufacturing in it. He's going to be most sensitive to, the anger and anguish that is going to come from this. There are a lot of manufacturing facilities, a lot of auto parts manufacturers in Wisconsin.
I wouldn't be surprised if they send some dairy to Canada's way, and may get some retaliatory tariffs. And also, he just saw essentially midterm level elections in that Supreme Court race, and the Republican got wiped out.
Yeah, and he's not up next year. He's not out until 2028. He's would be his next election. But yeah, still, it's a problem. I mean, you saw this week Dan Osborne in Nebraska say that he was going to explore a run in the other Nebraska Senate seat against a guy named Pete Ricketts, which is just perfect, like named after a 19th century disease. So Dan Osborne lost by 7 points, just 6.5 points in 2024 in a pretty good Republican year.
Yep.
the swing that we saw in Wisconsin right now would put him into office.
And that race in 2 years? The Ricketts race?
That race is next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Boy. That's the 26 race. Oh, I would be very nervous if I had Ricketts.
If you had Ricketts or
Here
the
is
Gauls
Ted Cruz,
or
of all people. Now, Ted Cruz, known for his strong stance against Donald Trump, and then completely like doing one of the most incredible double Lindys that have ever existed in politics. But here he is, Ted Cruz, coming out of like what semi-retirement, and we should say he's not saying this on his podcast. He's actually saying it to Larry Kudlow.
Look, I think it is a mistake to assume that we will have high tariffs in perpetuity. I don't think that would be good economic policy. I am not a fan of tariffs. And the announcement yesterday, look, time is going to tell in the next month or two or three what happens. If the result of yesterday's announcement is a lot of our trading partners across the globe dramatically reduce the tariffs they charge on U.S. goods and services, and the consequence of that is the U.S. government dramatically cuts the tariffs that were announced yesterday, that would be a great outcome. That would be good for America. If the result is our trading partners jack up their tariffs and we have high tariffs everywhere, I think that is a bad outcome for America. Tariffs are a tax on consumers, and I'm not a fan of jacking up taxes on American consumers. So my hope is these tariffs are short-lived and they serve as leverage to lower tariffs across the globe.
So we know that the tariffs that they put on that document that they handed around was not really the tariffs. What are the chances are that somebody's just going to go into the White House and say, guess what? All of the countries lowered their tariffs, President Trump. And he's like, perfect. Okay, then we can lower ours. And they just take this as like as a big win.
Well, I mean, and again, I don't think we should look at these as tariffs, but if you look at what that this tariff schedule implies, it says essentially the only way to get to zero is to have balanced trade with every country on earth, and balanced in every context, not just an overall balance of trade, but literally like we have to have balanced trade with Suriname. And we have to have balanced trade with Venezuela, and we have to have balanced trade with every single country on earth.
They got to buy more of our bananas.
It's impossible. And by the way, if you go back to that clip, look at what the Chiron says. Look at what the lower third says. It said
this is one with Cruz.
Trump's tariffs spark demand for tax cuts. It's exactly what we were talking about. In a rhetorical
Pop
sense.
this back up, Matt. We'll take a look at it. Fascinating. They're
Demand,
already on it.
like, Trump's tariffs spark increased calls for tax cuts. Increased calls by whom? By Republicans who want to pass their tax cuts and who now see at least the silver lining of an opportunity to do so. Rhetorical.
And I should say, though, I don't think Larry Kudlow has ever been on television, and he's had shows on CNBC and Fox where the Chiron doesn't say calls for tax cuts.
Right. They literally have a macro where they're just like calls for tax cuts. And
it's
it's very easy on the Chiron operator.
Yes,
to take
exactly.
Behind the scenes.
The Chiron operator has more time to head out and maybe get Larry a scotch, and doesn't have to put anything in it. Okay. David Dayen, it's been a real pleasure.
This was great. It was great to do the simulcast. Our people are happy. Your people are happy. We do a show. I'm sorry, sir, Lord Seder. We do a show on Fridays from 12:30 to 1:30. It's usually members of our staff talking about the news of the day, talking about our articles that we post at prospect.org. We also post that video after the fact, and you can watch it on our website at prospect.org. So if you love the Majority Report, you can't miss a word that Sam says in live real time.
Yep.
You can go back and you can watch our show after and
that is
glean some insights there. There's room for everybody.
100%. And I think you have made a very compelling argument why it would really be great of you guys to start at 1:30. Because like you say,
or 2:30,
you're on demand.
Or 4 in the morning when we could be live.
You have this newfangled on-demand service from YouTube, and you could just you could start your show live at 1:30, and then you could be back into the regular rotation on Fridays, just like the old days.
You're just so nostalgic for the past. You're like Trump in a way. You're looking for a time, and we've moved on. In
1:30.
We need to innovate.
1:30. It's an old word. 1:30. That I just am bringing it back. Everybody's saying 1:30 now. 1:30 this. 1:30 that. Eastern.
Yeah, the old
Eastern. Who says
1:30
Eastern?
in groceries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
David Dayen, always a pleasure. Thanks,
All right,
man.
thanks
Appreciate
a lot. We'll do this again. This was fun.
Yeah, we should. All right. Good.
All right.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.